Steve, I looked.
Yes. Well, we just solved a mystery right before we went on the air, everybody. It turns out we either it turns out we Jason and I either didn't review the Blair Witch Project on late seating, or it was one of the episodes that we had to take down because of audio problems. I honestly don't remember either way. It could have been, or it could be something that we just never did. But anyway, hi everybody. Welcome to my monthly Patreon hangout. I'm here with some of my wonderful Patreon patrons, and yeah, as usual, we are just going to spend the next hour talking about probably whatever the hell comes to mind.
Now, just like Social Justice Academy, we will
Yeah.
talk about whatever comes to mind. Even like JBJ brought up at the tail end of the show yesterday. Well, first is established, I am a furry because I watched the Beastars anime on Netflix. I do have a raccoon skin
Glad we got that
hat.
out of the way.
Yes, but also Jamie J mentioned something that she thought I would know since I'm an anime fan. She thought I would know about the penis festival that happens in Japan.
Of course.
Looking it up and looking at the Wikipedia is quite interesting. It's quite fascinating. But no, I did not know about it until JJ tells me about it. So yes, come to
festival.
Yeah,
yes.
I myself make that association constantly, like anime penis.
Yeah. Isn't that just American popular culture?
I just had the worst. I just had the worst mental image. I was just like thousands of wieners just wandering across.
It's just
they have a big statue.
It's just fun, you know.
Well, I was gonna bring up Transformers again just right quick, and
yeah, please.
I was actually writing a fan fiction set in the Kelvin timeline, where so it was going to be an alliance, like it was going to be a Star Trek Transformers fan fiction crossover, where the Decepticons would align with the Borg to attack the Federation and the Autobots, and so the Autobots had to then align with the Federation, and they used the Pioneer 10, the spacecraft Pioneer 10 with the pulsar map, that pulsar map that they had on the plaque, as like a map to invade the Klingon Empire, Romulus, and all that stuff. So I got to the point where Quintessa and the Borg Queen were making the alliance, but I never finished it. It was gonna be like a Michael Bay Star Trek kind of thing.
That's cool. That's like right in my sweet spot. When you threw in the Pioneer 10, I was like, hey, wait a minute.
Because Pioneer 10 was a Decepticon drone, so
I thought recently about a couple of old Star Trek episodes that affected me in very different ways, and I realized how they're philosophically just diametrically opposed.
Yeah.
So you have the chase, where they come up with an in-story explanation for why the Klingons and the Romulans and all these other species just are clearly ordinary humans with a bit of makeup. Actually explain it in the show, like, oh, well, there was a precursor race. They all descended from this one species that apparently
Proto.
the oceans
the founder
of every planet.
Who will be the enemy in Deep Space Nine. So
that
was the same actress. So
yeah, that was a neat way for them to tie everything together.
Yeah.
Then you have an episode from Voyager that I see is basically the opposite, where I think it's called Origin, where they find this alien species that apparently descended from Paralophilosaur. Like someone took some dinosaurs from our planet, put them on that planet, and they eventually evolved to be human-like. That is one of the most conceited tropes I've seen in fiction. It's so overdone, like, oh, well, of course if the dinosaurs had long enough, they would eventually look like us. We're the best body plan, naturally.
Right.
Well, that's what they did in Mission to Mars. At the very end of Mission to Mars, it was the Martians seeded Earth, and then when I guess Mars got hit by that asteroid, they put life on Earth. Like, have you guys seen that movie? Mission came out
long time ago.
Yeah.
So that feels kind of like the chase, but I'm just saying, like, while the chase had a really interesting idea to tie things together, Origin or whatever that episode was called, I see it as kind of doing the opposite, just because it's kind of backwards. It's a species that look nothing like us, eventually becoming like us for some reason.
Yeah,
it's just so conceited.
Yeah, and it's not you're that's a really good point. I never thought of it as conceited, but you're right. But it's also one of those tropes that like I feel like every once in a while TV writers, like sci-fi writers, will throw it out there thinking that it's way more interesting and deep than it is
Not
because it's just been
50 other
used so
writers have done
often.
it.
Like it's like, oh, you need. I'm nothing against. Okay, it's a fine trope, but it's like you need more than that. Like if the big twist is, but life on this planet actually originated on this other. Like, okay, we've been there. We've heard that story. Like you need more.
That's why I kind of appreciate that the species from Scorpion, species 2742, whatever it's called.
8472.
Yes, that's why I appreciate that. Now that's an alien. That looks different.
Yeah, well, that's finally by that time I'm pretty. They were using CGI at that point almost exclusively, were they not?
Yeah, I think by that point,
enough with the
Voyager
models.
Yeah. Those weren't models.
I
At
think
all.
was Voyager was the Voyager a CGI model for the entire series?
Maybe
I'm pretty sure it was.
Maybe at the end. Maybe at the end it was, but probably in like season 1, which was like 1995. Maybe it was a model.
Yeah. I feel I feel like there was a big deal made about that at some point during the show that like they had transitioned from using physical models to like all the exterior shots of the ship were all CGI, but I can't remember if it was.
Well, Steve, I know at Star Trek Generations they started going digital.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that.
And they also reused a shot from Star Trek 6. So they didn't go
Yes,
they did.
They all recognize that.
The Man of War. That one's. Of course, they also reused. I mean, they were reusing shots probably all over the place because the departure of the Enterprise in Star Trek II is essentially, it's a continuation of 2 shots. It was both continuations of the same shot that they used in the motion picture.
Yeah, that's right. Well, in Star Trek 2, they reused a lot of stuff from the motion picture.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of the reason why they made Star Trek 2 was to try to get more money out of Star Trek the motion picture.
Yeah, well, I mean, like a regular one was basically that the station in orbit about Earth turned upside down.
Yeah, it was exactly. Yeah, and I think the bridge set was just a very, very light redress of the motion picture bridge set. All of the Enterprise sets were reused from the motion picture, and it was because the whole idea behind making Star Trek 2 was let's make it as cheaply as possible and reuse as much stuff from the motion picture as we can to try and wring a little bit more money out of it. And it turned out to be this huge major success that they definitely made their money back on that one.
Can you guys see my cadet uniform back there?
Yes, you did.
Very
You
nice.
are a cosplayer.
I like it.
Yeah, I got to work. So I went to San Francisco last year, and I wore something like that all around the city. So I got a lot of compliments.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It looks terrific.
It is cool.
Did
It
you
is
ask
cool.
question?
Yeah.
Did you ask in-character questions such as "Where am I? What year is it?"
Well, I asked a police officer where can I find a nuclear vessel. So
Ah,
I did do that.
The only question is, did he get it?
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Oh,
that's
darn.
That's to say that should be in police training in San Francisco.
obviously.
Okay,
That's the only Star Trek trivia that they teach you in Police Academy.
Exactly.
If anyone asks where the vessels are,
Here's what. Okay, it's a movie reference. Act like you get it. They'll really appreciate
Just
it.
stare.
just tell them to go to Alameda.
Yeah.
All right, the policeman in the actual movie did just stare.
Yeah.
Well, someone actually told me to go to Alameda because they understood what I was saying. So
It was Chekhov
yeah.
too, with a thick Russian accent that was said asking for where the
I
nuclear
know.
vessel was.
Oh,
And that was
so
in the
great about
80s
it.
too.
I love it.
I love.
Well, yeah, they shot that live in the street. So a couple of those shots, it was actually Walter Koenig in character just stopping people and asking them. And I love
Before Borak.
yeah, and
That was unrehearsed.
I love the bit where he gets there's a couple of shots or a couple of beats there where like people just keep walking by him and aren't giving him anything, and he has to restart, and they leave all of that in the movie where he's like, "Hello, we are looking for." Hello, we are looking for nuclear. Hello, we're looking for nuclear vessels. And it's like he just keeps starting over with the next person, and it's so funny.
It's just like a program that's constantly have to restart. It's like, welcome. What is your query? Welcome. What is your query? Or it's like it's not skipping like a record. Welcome. What is your query?
That's one of the funniest things to me is when like a video starts skipping, so you just see someone shaking like, like it's stuck on that half a second and keeps going back and forth.
I even tried to recreate the bus scene. Yeah, I tried to do that because I got an '80s like stereo that I took with me, and I like dressed up in punk and did that.
So you're basically just trying to get into a fight. You go to San Francisco. Yeah. You're just trying to get people to fight you.
Did somebody wind up giving you a Vulcan nerve pinch then, or what?
Right.
No, but the bus driver said turn that crap off, so it was something similar.
It's close.
Because we went over the Golden Gate Bridge, so that's when he told me that. So
while we're reminiscing about movies, so recently I saw the first two Raimi Spider-Man films.
Oh yeah.
After going like 15 years without seeing either of them, and I was blown away. I'm like, holy crap, these still hold up. They're still so like. Emotional, like they're cheesy, they're corny, but when did cheese become bad? Apparently, I didn't get the memo that people certainly don't like whatever. But I it's so insulting to me. Like I see these posts on Twitter all the time, these hot takes, like all we need is Spider-Verse. You could just leave out the Raimi films and you wouldn't lose a damn thing. I'm like, no, these films are still.
Complete disagreement.
Yeah.
Raimi films were the good live action films.
Oh yeah, and I love Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse was genius.
I haven't seen that one yet.
I love it. So, Spider-Verse and the first two Raimi films, those are like three favorite Spider-Man movies that are ever going to be made, I think. And I see Spider-Verse almost as like a follow-up because the schlubby Peter B. Parker.
Yeah.
It just makes perfect sense to me that that's how the Tobey Maguire version was always going to end up. At one point, they even wanted to get Tobey Maguire to voice that character.
Yeah.
So it was almost canonized. But he didn't feel up to it. He doesn't like voice acting, I suppose. But the one really low point for me in the Raimi films, it wasn't Emo Parker dancing, it wasn't any of that stuff. It was in the wrestling match where he's like, that's a pretty dress. Did your husband make it for you? You know what would have been perfect?
Some jokes don't
save that moment. You know what I would have loved? If Macho Man, if Randy Savage's character just went, you leave my husband out of this.
Exactly. Turn it around. That would have been great.
But that was like
my husband.
Oh man, but like but it was again product of his time, which doesn't excuse it. But it wasn't until at that point, and not everyone had a gay uncle, and though most people had a gay uncle.
You keep my husband's name out of your mouth,
Or a schizophrenic uncle.
Wrestling, come on, wrestling. Steve, you said that wrestling is one of the most problematic entertainments there are. I want to challenge you on that just because the anime industry has blocked like laws in Japan that stripping child pornography.
I would say it's the most problematic form of entertainment that I am intimately familiar with because there's a lot of anime I haven't seen. So I mean, if you want to say anime's way worse, I'll take your word for that.
When it comes to anime, I've only seen Pokemon from the '90s. And I stopped because I'm like I just think that's enough for me,
Yeah,
there are some wonderful stories.
With me, it's mostly Speed Racer with a small dose of Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon's going to be like free, available for like anyone to see. I saw
or Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z is another one.
Look, I've seen a little. I haven't seen enough of Dragon Ball Z to have any idea what's going on with that.
That's best, actually.
So, you know what makes me sad is the death of the anime avatar. All these
I still have mine.
who use anime avatars on Twitter and whatnot. It's become a red flag. If you have an avatar of an anime character, people are instantly going to assume that you're a troublemaker.
Yes, I'm a transnarcal socialist with the anime avatar too.
It's why I'm afraid to even use my artwork, my characters like Minnow as an avatar, because even though it's not really anime style, from a distance, like if you squint, it kind of looks like it. So I'm worried that people might see that and think, oh, this guy's probably an alt-righter. No.
Is it wrong that when you started that sentence, what makes me sad, and you were talking about anime and you had a little pause there that my brain immediately went to Grave of the Fireflies.
It is the saddest movie ever.
Okay, well, I've seen an anime series that's available on Netflix actually now called Anohana, The Flower We Saw That Day. It made me and my brothers, including my younger brother, the Game Getter one, cry. It was so painful to cry at the end. It was so painful to cry. It's just like we had to like decompress after that because that Anohana, The Flower We Saw That Day. That's the most I ever cried at that point.
Yeah.
And this was before I
will
saw
say,
the documentary film Won't You Be My Neighbor about like Fred Rogers.
Oh, yeah.
That one made me a blubbering like mess in the theater.
There are certain. I mean, I honestly believe it's one of the highest callings of an artist is sometimes to just make your audience cry. You know, like there's like and when a film or a TV show or a book or whatever can move you to tears and do it in a way where they're not doing it cheaply, they're not doing like tearjerker stuff, like it genuinely moves you, like that to me is the pinnacle of great art because that's when they've got you, like they've got you and they can get you to cry genuine tears. Without like crassly manipulating you with like anybody's going to be moved. But if you show like, the scene at the end of The Champ where the little kid is like crying over his dad who just got killed in a boxing match, like, okay, you got me, but that was easy. Like anybody's going to cry at that shit.
I would say, look, Grave of the Fireflies, I think it is very good. But there is one thing that kind of irritates me. And it's at the end when, I forget if the kids are already dead and it's basically their ghosts. When the older brother turns and looks directly at the viewer, as if to say, "This is what your parents went through, you little shits."
You little shits.
But the aunt didn't irritate you?
Yeah, that's the thing because the aunts felt burdened by the orphan children, and
I just mean thematically, not within.
I know what you mean.
What the
Breaking the fourth window at the very end.
I was joshing.
Or the fourth wall, whatever.
The director just shaking his finger at the audience.
I can mention Ishiro Takahata doing that actually, because like he always like kind of ties the little messages in those films, like Pompoko, where there is the implied that like all the Tanukis that can transform to be humans, they all are still among us. So please treat other animals as you would treat other people because you just never know if that other person is a Tanuki. But now we have furries. I mean, I have my raccoon skin hat, which is close to a Tanuki.
Funny, I almost mistook you for Davy Crockett.
Yeah. So can you fly?
Daniel Boone, same actor. Daniel Boone as well.
Stipulated.
If you run fast enough and get up enough speed, can you fly?
I wish I could, but I'm not going to try it because I've been burned by Red Bull. Red Bull says that Red Bull gives you wings. That was a lie.
You know what my all-time favorite Game Genie code on Nintendo was there was a Game Genie code you could put in so you could have Raccoon Mario fly without having to run. You just hold down the button and the meter fills up while he's standing there, and then he just takes off like Peter Pan or something. Oh, I love that. I would do that shit for
Guys,
the whole legend of the oh, sorry.
I was gonna say,
go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was saying, are any of you guys looking forward to seeing Top Gun Maverick? By the way,
I would see that just to see what they do. The flying sequences have to be terrific.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it when it comes out, like for streaming, but I don't think I'll go see it in the theater whenever that is. If theaters even exist by the time it comes out.
Honestly, I never seen the first Top Gun because I already saw the anime of Top Gun, which is just Backcross Plus. I recommend that one actually.
Yeah, well, the flight scenes in the original, especially they use the shot twice when they have at least 7 or 8 aircraft, each following each other in a huge sort of semi-scissors, barrel roll maneuver, and you wonder how the hell are those guys keeping from hitting each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some really good flight
that was a
footage
fur ball. That was a genuine fur ball.
I've actually seen that movie recently, like within the last year, and the drama and the acting doesn't really hold up. It's kind of just a melodrama.
Yo, totally.
No, but if you love powered flight, you can't beat it.
Yeah,
I was
it's-
saying those scenes are still really good.
It's
but-
like it's like a really like a the first movie that ever won the Best Picture Oscar was an airplane movie. It was called Wings.
Wings.
And Top Gun is kind of like Wings injected with a very, very high dose of testosterone.
Yeah,
Because it's very similar. It's like the story is just kind of melodramatic claptrap, but the technical stuff, the flying scenes are amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't talk about Top Gun without also talking about undercurrents of homoeroticism.
Oh boy.
I think Renegade Cut did a whole video about that, actually, about the 80s homoeroticism in the 80s. I mean, like in Commando, like in all those other movies. So I'll find that video and put a link.
Beautiful.
Oh, I've seen it.
Exactly.
I've seen it some random. I've seen it.
Like,
Yeah, it's-
Maverick and Iceman, just kiss already, would you? Just get it over with. Everybody knows you want to.
But of course, there's
That
also
one's well-
always Hot Shots, which played that to the
I've seen
nines.
that movie. See, I've seen that movie, so I don't need to see Top Gun.
I love Hot Shots. I love Hot Shots Part 2 to this day. It makes me laugh like a tickled
Yes.
child. It just
I have never seen any of the Rambo movies either, but I've seen Hot Shots Part 2 a bunch of times because it's funny.
I was thinking the other day because actually it's funny we got on this subject last night. I had a wild hair at my ass and we watched The Naked Gun for the first time in years and years,
jeez.
and it
Oh,
made me laugh.
such a good movie.
It made me laugh just like it always did. And then we were talking about other spoofs, and I always remember that scene in Hot Shots Part 2 where it's near the end and they reach like the prison camp and there's all the fighting and everything and the explosions are going off. And there's that shot of Miguel Ferrer and he just stands up out of like a foxhole and looks right at the camera and goes, "War, it's fantastic." And she flashes that cheesy grin and it like holds on him forever before it cuts to the next shot. I love it.
I saw the first Rambo. The other ones are just kind of stupid, but the first one's good.
I liked the On Disenchantment on Netflix. That was one of my favorite lines from the first episode, right after the ogres and the gnomes killed each other. I like war, but I wouldn't say I love war.
I had an interesting experience the other day. I decided I was going to duck in on the new version of the Twilight Zone that's on CBS All Access.
Oh yeah.
I got about 15 minutes into Terror at 30,000 feet, and I thought, you know what? No. and I listed right below that was the classic Twilight Zone. I thought,
Yeah.
okay. And I stumbled around, and the next thing you know, I've got Jack Klugman as Joey Crown in A Passage for Trumpet.
Passage for Trumpet, yeah.
Which is just, and it's the first time I had seen it from beginning to end in a long time. And the opening scenes are just, I mean, Klugman had chops you couldn't dream of.
He was really good.
He was spectacular, and I believe he was in a total. And it's interesting because the second one I watched was the classic Burgess Meredith, Fritz Weaver, The Obsolete Man.
Oh yeah.
Which Serling was so on his A game back then that it was downright scary. But the thing is, it was interesting because Klugman and Meredith both were in 4 Twilight Zones over the 5 years of the run. And they were, I mean, you could say The Printer's Devil wasn't the best, but it was still fun. I mean, it had its moments.
Klugman was in it. There are 2 Twilight Zone episodes that are constantly fighting in my head for my favorite episode, and one of them is Nick of Time, the William Shatner episode with the napkin holder that tells the future, and then the other one is a Klugman episode, A Game of Pool with Jonathan Winters. Yes. And I love that episode so much, and I love because at the end of it, when he's won the game and then he's by himself again in the pool hall and like there's nobody there and he's just accomplished his life's dream of beating this legendary pool hustler and nobody was there to see it, and he looks like off camera at nobody and says, "You saw it, didn't you?" And there's such tragedy in that moment where he's just like, nobody saw me do it. I'm the best player in the world now and nobody knows it. And he's so good. He's so.
Do you guys prefer the original The Day the Earth Stood Still or the one with Keanu Reeves?
Oh,
Are
the
you-
original easily. I
The
saw
original,
the remake,
and it's
no.
second isn't even close.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Well,
The Keanu has its moments here
Yeah.
and there, but it just does not pull together anywhere near
No,
as well. It doesn't have the cohesion.
Exactly,
Right,
because
okay.
Keanu Reeves, like the Keanu Reeves character is just like, I don't want to, I don't want to kill people, but that person should be left to die. But after I just killed this person, yeah, sure, I'll save this person, even though all the planet is going to die because they still are. The human race is not worth the saving, and the best Jennifer Connelly has is like, but we are humans, in my opinion.
I just thought that choosing Keanu Reeves to play that role was just weird because he usually plays very violent characters in other movies. So you're choosing him to be human beings are too violent. Okay.
I'll say this.
Okay.
That's funny.
The scene at the graveyard was probably the peak of the movie to me.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid he's acting with, I can't think of the kid's name, but
James Smith.
Yeah.
James
That's
Smith, yes, of
it's Will
course.
Smith's son.
Yeah.
That's right. And but if the rest of the movie could have risen to that level, you would have had something. As it is, get serious.
Yeah, wow, I
Okay.
totally forgot that Jaden Smith was even in that movie. I completely blanked that he was even in it. I feel like it was one of those, and I don't know all of the backstory behind the production of that movie, but it struck me as the kind of thing where somebody at like a studio decided they were going to remake this classic movie, and then they started assembling it from that point. Whereas if it had been a case of like a writer or a director had a really passionate take on it,
Yeah.
and said, if they ever let me remake Day the Earth Stood Still, I know exactly what I would do. I know exactly how I would change it and modernize it for current events. Like then you might have had something. But
Right.
I don't know. Maybe that's what happened, and it just didn't work out. But it feels like it was sort of like somebody said, what established properties do we have that we could remake that we haven't done yet? Day the Earth Stood Still. Okay, get somebody on it.
That's all of Disney's catalog coming out now, except for the occasional Pixar movie, honestly.
I feel like the
High
second.
fidelity. Let's do that.
I just,
Yeah. I haven't watched
I'll
that
tell
yet.
you
finished
what.
watching the Poseidon Adventure. So it's the Poseidon Adventure, and then it's the one that they made with Kurt Russell. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
I saw the original Day the Earth Stood Still when I was really young.
Yeah.
And for years, for some reason, in my mind, I had combined that movie with the Twilight Zone episode To Serve Man.
Oh.
And I thought they were one and the same.
I can
And
see
I
that.
don't know. For some reason, like, I thought the end of The Day the Earth Stood Still was, it's a cookbook. I had no idea they were two different things.
I can see that though. That does make sense. I can see how you would sort of mash those together because they are similar.
They start from a similar premise. Yeah.
So one of the greatest strengths, I think, of the original was the whole relationship between Klaatu, or Mr. Carpenter, if you will, and Robbie Benson. I mean, to me, because that is the meat of the movie right there. At least, I mean, that's where Carpenter actually has, a first-person experience with what's going on this planet that he's, threatening.
Mhm.
And yeah, it is a threat, and let's be real about that. And it's interesting because that got under my skin at one point so much that I actually wrote a vignette which is called An Answer to Klaatu. And it's written by Robbie Benson.
do you guys like 2001: A Space Odyssey or 2010: The Year We Made Contact? Because I personally like 2010.
Really?
I like them both,
I like
but
them
for
both.
different reasons.
2010 is good, but 2001 is one of my favorite movies ever. Like it's like my number
Okay.
2 or 3 favorite movie ever. So I don't
Very
like
different
2010 that much, but 2010 is
2010
fun.
was more. I feel like 2010 was more intellectual, whereas 2001 was just visuals and cinematics, which I like. I mean, I like the motion picture of Star Trek. So
Yeah, that's a solid movie. It's just this long, boring movie.
I was gonna say,
that
I-
needed an
It's
editor.
They're
It's where-
building
it's-
atmosphere. You have
it's
to
where
be on the
Vijayism
wavelength.
comes from.
Yeah.
The problem with the Star Trek the motion picture is they edited out the scenes that allowed it to make sense. They did, because I've got the director's cut. I've got the new director's cut, and it's not quite day and night, but it's significant.
Yeah, I've seen the version you're talking about too, and it is. I mean, you have to be in the mood for a long movie.
Yeah, true.
And
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I've seen the I've seen the definitive version of Blade Runner. I think that's the Ridley Scott new one. Yes, this is my vision of the movie. So I don't need to see the theatrical one. I feel, because I saw a pretty good movie already.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what your interests are. I mean, it's worth seeing if you're like a student of film and you're just interested in the history of it. I mean, it's to me, it's worth seeing all the different versions of Blade Runner just for educational purposes.
So I've only seen the original version. Does the lack of narration in one of the director's cuts, does it make it better, or I'm just curious. I'm going to watch it on my own.
Yeah.
But
The lack of it doesn't hurt. What you have to keep in mind, what you have to keep in mind though, is that when you see on a DVD the director's cut, that really isn't the director's cut.
Yeah.
The last cut
Confusing.
is the director's cut.
The last cut, okay.
Yeah, because that term director's cut kind of got bastardized in the 90s to just sort of mean an alternate cut. They weren't all necessarily like literally the director's preferred cut. But yeah, I personally, kind of like the version without the narration better. Although there are differences other than just taking out the narration. All the different versions, they're all cut slightly different. They all have slightly different running times. Some of them have a little bit, some scenes are edited differently, or some things are put in or taken out. But yeah, the final cut.
I still gotta watch Blade Runner.
I think if I had to choose, I would probably pick the final cut as my favorite, because I do think without the narration it works better. But the original is great. Like, the original is fantastic. There's nothing to say against it.
I was a little surprised that Steve didn't like Star Trek Generations. I kind of like it. I don't know.
You're not alone in that one, because I enjoyed it too for its own value. If for nothing else, the interaction between Picard and Kirk is damn near worth a whole movie.
Now, Nemesis did suck.
I agree.
I don't hate
terrible.
Generations. There are parts of Generations that I really like, but as a movie, I feel like it's very choppy.
I guess the Enterprise D being destroyed, I guess, is the best part of it. I guess.
Well, and that was a lot of work. None of that was CGI. That was a model going in, and
That's good.
And I was very impressed with that myself.
So I was just gonna say I learned something terrifying about the Cats movie.
Oh boy.
So among some of the other changes made very late in production, apparently at first the characters were all animated to have buttholes. Just right there, very visible. And somebody's job was to erase them all. And so I saw this hashtag going around like, release the butthole cut.
Yeah.
Release the buttholes,
which I loved, because it's making fun of Release the Snyder Cut, which is my least favorite Twitter hashtag ever. So
oh my god, no, it's like it's not going to make it any better.
Yeah,
it will make it more fascist, honestly.
They really think that somewhere out there in some cave there is a finished reel of this other better version of the movie, and that they just did.
Yeah, they're keeping.
And the buttholes are not painted out.
Yeah.
Exactly how movies are made.
We must see the buttholes. We must see butts. Hey, Anita Sarkeesian talked about like the strategic butt coverings of all of those male characters.
I love what I love about the Cat. And I have not seen the Cats movie yet, but I love the phenomenon of it that people are demanding that the studio make changes to it to make it worse.
But they made changes. They patched that movie in while it was in theaters.
Because they know. Well, because they know that that's the value of the movie. It's the first time I can remember where we see like a cult classic being assembled in real time, where the fans, the people who like the movie, get that the only way you can like it is to like it because it's so awful, and they're like, make it
more
worse.
terrible.
Make it worse.
Thing Night was technically version 0.9. And then a week later, we finally got version 1.0.
That's right.
Then they patched it again to change the hair on Judi Dench's coat. For
Yes,
version
exactly.
1.2.
It makes me
When
think
you get
of the
version
Sonic
2.0,
movie.
when the DVD
Judi
comes out.
Dench was in Cats?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Idris Elba and
Idris
Ian
Elba's
McKellen. It
There's quite a
had a
cast.
big cast.
There's quite a
Yes.
cast.
Brother.
Ironically, love that movie. Like,
Oh man, I got a video.
Action. I am a cat. Cut. Sir Ian. Sir Ian.
One of my goofy pleasures
Yes.
is me watching James Bond movies and how silly they all are.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All of them are and something like that. Honestly, sometimes in James Bond movies, sometimes the best thing is like the theme song. A View to a Kill is a classic element of that, where the Duran Duran theme song is the best thing about that movie.
And
And
just,
even with
like-
Christopher
like-
Walken in it.
What is with this guy and like Pierce Bronson and like women? He can't like.
Okay,
Th-
you know,
this-
it's
I
so
don't get it.
funny to me that Austin Powers respects women more than James Bond does.
Yes.
Because Austin Powers, he's a horn dog. He's from the era of free love and all that. But there was this great scene in the first movie where Vanessa is drunk and she's pretty, but he's like, no, love, it wouldn't be right
Yeah.
because she can't consent. I'm like, oh my gosh, how hard is this to do? Like in every movie.
Yeah. Austin Powers gets it, dude.
Austin Powers respects women. At least
When
more
you
than
get-
James Bond does.
Haven't you guys seen the Stepford Wives?
Oh yeah.
No,
Saw the
neither
original about a
or the
zillion years
remake.
ago.
The originals is a household favorite around here. Yeah.
Well, I know because like Republican women kind of remind me of them.
Oh, there's a great video that just reminded me of like Acho Joke has done, and I think Matt Blender has also done about the alt-right women. It's kind of interesting, fascinating how like how these traditional wives, that kind of movement is like, it's like part of the alt-right, and yet it's like they don't realize that, you know what, they're not in for you or for your advancement or anything like that. Lawrence, I know you can try and complain about like how people expect you to be like a stay-at-home mother and stuff like that. You gotta realize who you're like lying in bed with. Bad analogy there, actually, with the context.
Yeah.
I gotta say, Geek, the way like you rolled your eyes just then, just because of like where the camera was, it just reminded me of that gif of someone going, "The point." I don't know, it just reminded me of that. Anyway,
I'm
The
gonna watch.
point
Big-
as in, this is the town and we are the people?
no, I'm just saying he looked like if somebody could have captured that just then, they could have made a live action version of that gif.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch Big Bang Theory for the first time tonight.
Oh, bless your heart.
I
Yeah.
still haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Don't.
And I won't.
Via con Dios.
We should discuss. We should all
It's
just
still-
keep from watching that.
Well,
still kinda
what's
troublesome.
what's wrong with it? I know it's goofy and stupid in a lot of ways, but
Pop Culture Detective has like done a video series about like geeky misogyny.
Yeah.
Where he
I
took
think I
went
saw
back to,
that.
like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, so that's kind
It
of
still
part of his
kind
problem.
of troubles me that Sheldon has become like the go-to representation of autism.
And
There's
that
that
really
too.
pisses me off.
Yeah, and it disrespects that. It disrespects engineers, scientists, people. Yeah, I mean, the last time I saw an engineering character in a dramatic series who actually was semi-serious and taken at least reasonably seriously, you're going to hate it, I mention it, but was medium. You know, what's her name's husband, and at that he had a bit part at best.
Oh my god!
Nobody, engineers are what make it work. But when's the last time somebody did a dramatic series about engineers? Answer: not that I'm aware of.
You're right. He was surprisingly good in that part. That actor that
He was
played
wonderful
her
in
husband.
that part.
Yeah.
I just had a bad memory of Medium. The only thing I've ever seen of that show was a few seconds from the episode "Whatever Possessed You." I was just flipping through the channels. I had no idea what I'd landed on, and I happened to land on that show. Like when you have that lingering shot of like this girl who I guess just murdered somebody. She's got like blood on her fingers and whatnot, and she transforms into this evil succubus thing, and it's not even a good effect. It's like bad CG, but it happens so abruptly, and I had the volume turned up so loud that it gave me a panic attack. I'm like, I was like rushing to turn the TV off. I was all messed up for the rest of the day.
What is that?
This is Please Stand By.
Oh, okay.
Have you guys seen this yet?
I haven't seen it.
It's Dakota Fanning's character has autism, and she's a huge Star Trek fan. So I just
cool.
Oh.
So
anyway, sorry for going on that tangent. I just I was in a bad place for a minute there.
That's fine. Hey, we're all about tangents here because like you're just all here sitting around talking with Steve Shives, practicing social distancing before like we were all forced to do that.
Hey, someone mentioned. I just happened to glance at the live chat. Someone mentioned JoJo in the chat said, "What about MacGyver as an engineer?" Technically, MacGyver was not an engineer.
No, but the thing is, he I mean, I never followed MacGyver that much, but I mean,
I remembered it.
He's one of these guys who seems to be a general specialist.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and who seems to know everything. And the only reason why he really knows everything is because he's got enough writers behind him who know everything.
Exactly. The closest thing they ever came to giving MacGyver an actual specialty was physics, and even that was very conditional on the needs of the episode. Yeah, but it was established at one point that his in college his major apparently was physics. Although, like I said, like that could change. You know, if he needed to have majored in something else to serve the plot of a given episode, they would just completely ignore that. So, yeah.
So Steve, what did you think about the TV show 7 Days? I know you brought that up one time, one of your 5 stupid things.
Yeah, I didn't really watch that much of it. Yeah. I'm familiar with the premise of it, and it sounded like a really cool idea. But I remember I only watched a little of it. I never really got into it. The time travel series I was super into as a kid was Time Tracks.
Right.
Sliders for me.
Well, Sliders was parallel dimensions.
Back to the Future for me. So
Back to the Future, yeah.
Was Time Tracks?
Which I've never seen, so I'm like completely.
What?
You've never seen Back to the Future? Oh, watch Back to the Future before you watch The Big Bang Theory.
I don't have it on VHS, so that sucks.
VHS, good lord.
Time Tracks was one of those PTEN shows, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Oh, I love Time Tracks.
Did the police officer or the
still don't remember
have like a certain number of capsules and one would send them back to the future?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Partly just because it's so ubiquitous in our culture. I have seen so many bad Back to the Future takes. Like people going like, "Oh, he should have been so mean to Biff. He basically destroyed his life." Biff was gonna rape somebody.
Yeah.
And
Biff was an asshole.
He repeatedly tried to run Marty over. Biff isn't just a bully.
Yeah.
Who just he just comes from a broken home. He doesn't mean it or what. No.
Under asshole in the dictionary, it says see Biff.
Yeah, Biff was a jerk.
It's like okay, there's bullying, then there's Biff.
Someone has a DeLorean here in Tallahassee where I live in an auto shop.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
my brother. Sorry.
A little while back, I suppose most of you may or may not have seen it, but I finally decided to get the collected miniseries Chernobyl.
Oh yeah.
Oh
wow. That I'll tell you, it is not at all pretty.
No.
And they don't sugarcoat it, but boy, what you learn about that massive mess. It's not something that you're going to enjoy watching, but you'll be glad you did because of what you learned.
The first episode, I nearly had a panic attack, but that was also largely because my dad was blocking the door, which seems to trigger me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chernobyl is. I mean, it's a great series, but it's rough.
Oh my god!
Rough.
I just remember Joanna Roberts, who I put the link in the live chat early up, and it's down below that she always needs money because she's disabled, and capitalism is a very ableist system, but I won't go on it. But she shared with me a brilliant mashup of like taking the opening theme song to Neo Genesis Evangelion and using shots of Chernobyl. She is such a nerd, and so am I because I loved it too.
Using shots of what?
Shots of Chernobyl, the HBO series with the opening sequence to Neo Genesis Evangelion. It's kind of like fitting.
It's definitely very dark from what I can tell.
Have you? I remember just seeing this video of this group of like this black gospel choir singing that song. It was amazing. It was a match made in heaven.
Oh, the opening theme song to New Jack's Evangelion.
Cruel Angel Thesis.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Cruel Angel's Thesis. It was
That's
amazing.
cool.
As it comes to music and something dark, I don't know how many of you know the music of Eric Whitacre. He's a
I love it.
He's a brilliant composer and arranger. He typically takes other people's poetry and sets it to music, or he will take something else. Recently, it's been a while, maybe 6 months or more, he took Hurt and did his own arrangement of it, and it is haunting. You'll find it on YouTube. It's very easy to find. Just Eric Whitacre, Whitacre, different spelling, and then just Hurt.
I like his virtual choirs.
Yeah, his virtual choirs are amazing. But this was something he did, I believe, with his own group, the Eric Whitacre Singers, and it'll just take your breath away.
I'll look that up.
Yeah. Okay, so Steve, I got a question for everyone in the chat.
Oh boy.
Suppose that I was able to develop a Phoenix-like workshop, and in that scene when Zephyr Cochrane and Riker and LaForge are in the cockpit, and Cochrane takes out Steppenwolf, Magic Carpet Ride. I'm thinking my songs, if I was doing that, would be Spinning Around by Kylie Minogue, Fantastic Voyage by Coolio, Smash Mouth by All Star.
All Star by Smash Mouth.
That's great.
And I Will Buy You a New Life by Everclear. That's the four I'm thinking about.
That's a good Warp Speed playlist. I like that.
Although spinning around is much more funny. It's a mid 90s singer and a mid 21st century. Okay.
I would have to go Final Countdown, for the lead up.
Yes, just because of the cheesiness.
Just because of pure cheesiness. Yeah.
I'm sorry to go back a ways, but I want to say just one thing I want to say about the Raimi films that I really appreciate.
Please.
So look, when I was a kid, of course, there were a lot of things that I didn't catch on. Now you're being aware of politics and culture and attitudes and power dynamics and all of that. I can notice all these little things I didn't before that could be problematic, but I think they kind of work. So look, we've talked in a past stream about how most of Spider-Man's villains, they're like these sad old men of science who feel like the world has let them down, and the second they get a bit of power, their first instinct is to use it irresponsibly. And how Peter totally would have become one of those guys if not for someone like Uncle Ben in his life, giving him that foundation, that moral code. But that movie seems to go a little further, even though I don't think Raimi intended this. It's basically by accident. Peter really is creepy in the first half of the film. He is so awkward. Like nowadays, you could see someone like that eventually devolving into an incel. Like the way he's around, the way he's around girls, the way he's around Mary Jane, it's like he just can't help. He just doesn't have the social skills. But as the film goes on and he becomes more outgoing and makes connections with other people, he becomes better. He just starts acting more normal, less like someone that you would look and think, oh, that's a weirdo. And I guess I appreciate that. It's not a development that you often see highlighted, but it's kind of subtle, but I think it works if you look at it that way.
So Nick,
I could just be talking out of my ass.
No, I agree.
Nick, I know a lot of incels are diagnosed with autism. Do you see like a connection between autism and loneliness that leads to being an incel?
There's something that
what's your opinion?
I think there's something that I think is called rote memory, where once something goes wrong a couple of times, it's like your brain forms this pattern and just assumes, oh, that's just natural. That's just how it works. And it's always going to happen. Like it's kind of just keeps repeating and you don't see it breaking. And it's like you have to be reminded, no, that's not the way things are. You just had a couple of bad experiences in a row. Doesn't mean it's always going to happen. You shouldn't give up hope. And like incel culture, it is a cult of
entitlement.
It's also defeat. You know, it's also this idea that like
it is defeat.
It's this idea that, well, I shouldn't have to try to improve my behavior because it's all, my chin shape. It's these things that are out of my control. So I'm never going to get girls because of that. So, it's like it's a cop out. It's an excuse to say, well, I'm just inherently this way. So what's the point?
And they
of trying
support
to be
each
better?
other. Exactly.
It's a
and they
reason
support
to
each other
quit.
and not to try to move forward. They support each other and not trying to improve.
Exactly.
If they got out of that circle and met other people and just had some curiosity about other people instead of assuming what they're thinking of them. And we all do it, but not to get caught in that whole loop.
But like I was saying, with autism, there does seem to be this tendency to create patterns where there are none, and it's repetition. As autistic people, it's a big stereotype, but yes, we do like some degree of repetition. It gives us stability, knowing that this is how this day is going to go. And, like, it's not that I don't like breaking routine, but you see, if I set up plans, and then like a day before it's supposed to happen suddenly changes, it's hard for me to adjust. It takes like hours for my brain to shift gears. Whereas for most people, it just probably take a couple of minutes. So it's like I have to get used to one thing and then slowly get used to another thing. It's just this whiplash. So it doesn't surprise me that much.
I struggle with that kind of thinking all the time, and I always work on it. But I have friends like you guys to hang out with.
So like it doesn't surprise me that yes, autistic people may be slightly more likely to become incels if we don't have some kind of support network to drag us back to Earth and remind us how things actually are.
It's easy to become resentful,
bitter,
if you're not keeping your perspective.
Yeah.
I want to like jump into like some of my thoughts about like why is that like boys seem to have this kind of entitlement of it and something like that. I think that does have to do with the like as well as the society and the media that they consume as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Toxic masculinity, I think. This was a video that like Dan Olsen did like back in 2014 and was kind of a follow-up to his Gamergate video, the toxic masculinity in analyzing Fight Club. And it's kind of like because of like the nuclear family, the white picket fence, the American dream, they feel like they must do that. And in our society of liberalism, neoliberalism, hyper-individuality is where if you are not in that place in your mid-30s where you felt like you're supposed to have that wife, the 2 kids, and the dog, and the white picket fence, you place the blame on yourself. You failed. And this is still prevalent today. David Harvey has knows that like with the wealth gap as it is, 3 of the richest Americans in right now own just as much wealth as the bottom 160 million people in poverty. But yet the majority of those 160 million people blame themselves instead of realizing the systemic problems as they were with like capitalism. And also, again, capitalism has the inherent alienation factor as well. We are atomized because we all go back to our own castles of our own homes and not as a collective, as the workers, as the like working class. And we are we're alienated from each other. We're alienated from our work.
There is one other element of it, though. There is one other element. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying that's a good point because just watch any of the Fast and Furious movies, and those movies are all about fast cars, strong dudes, guns, women in bikinis, and and if you're not, if that doesn't interest you, you're kind of looked at as the loser.
One other element of this, though, and it's this idea that you can be fixed by somebody else. So of course, we all have support networks. We all have people that we like to talk to in those moments where we're really isolated or we might be having a panic attack or something like that. But when it comes to a partner, I this is a problem that I see like with so many of, again, these incel types where they give up on self-improvement. They just think, well, the only way I could be happy is with another person in my life. No, they want a stress ball. They want someone that they can lean on without really giving back.
Right.
And yeah, women are expected to do all this emotional labor for the men in their lives to basically be their moms. But
and that's a problem in itself.
I can't stand this idea that that you need somebody to fix you. It's why, like, look, if I wanted to, and if I really put myself out there, I think I could get a girlfriend pretty easily. I don't say anything to no, I just mean, like, I have met
same here
and come close to making a connection. Like, if I just went a little further, I could have made something, but I just didn't really feel like it. I guess you see,
that's my whole dog life, honestly.
The thing is, I don't want to be the leech. I don't want to be the one that's like overly dependent on them.
That's my fear too. Honestly, that's my fear of commitment or intimacy in that way too.
My point is, I want to make sure I am perfectly happy being alone, by myself. Then I will seek a relationship.
But there's something going on in that, and that is the very fact that you're aware of it.
Yeah.
And that is it may not be 90% of it, but it's a good healthy chunk. This really
that's the first step.
Yeah, this really plays to something that is sort of a pet peeve of me, and that is the fact. I mean, I struggled with myself. I mean, I had a miserable child. Well, not miserable, but it was nowhere near what it could have been in terms of my relationship with my parents, my relationship with my peers. And I put a lot of that down to the fact, and especially as it continued into my adult years, the simple fact that I think as a culture, and you can check me on this if you think I'm full of beans, and it's entirely possible I am. I do not think that the culture in the United States really supports or encourages self-examination.
Not really, no.
I agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep coming back to that, that wonderful sign that was over the Oracle's door to her kitchen in the first Matrix film, Tenet Noche. Know yourself.
Thyself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because when you know yourself and you own yourself, that frankly opens all the doors as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, and it's a process. It's something, if you really, grasp it and own it, it's something you do the rest of your life, and it's something you gain from for the rest of your life.
Well, it's also sort of a balance, though. How do we learn? We learn from our interactions with other people. There's sort of a
wonderful point,
a balance that we have to do. We hone ourselves on other people only when we make sure that we're aware of their effects on us, when we're aware of our own feelings and take those and don't push it on the other person like you made me X, Y, and Z, rather than saying, when I'm around the person, I feel X, Y, and Z, make it our own process, but still interact.
I feel like it's also the fact that we don't self-examine ourselves because we're trying to compete with others. Just look look at commercials where it's always, you
need buy this.
You need this. And it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Society of the spectacle.
I don't even have my own shit anymore.
I was just making the point that it is incumbent on me to make an effort to fix myself. Because if I, try to get in a relationship with somebody thinking that they're going to fix me, I'm never going to be happy because they're not going to be able to do it. There are certain parts of myself that only I can get together.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, is that it's incumbent on people to at least try to sort themselves out and not voice that entire burden on another person.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true, because our partners are our partners. Hello, LeChon. I see you just showed up at the tail end of the stream. So we'll make go around and make our final points. Is there any, if we can be quick about, I'll be quick about this one thing.
Is that what we're going to do?
Yes, Summer Renegade be the unofficial producer of the Steve Shives channel.
Is that what we're going to do? I'm glad somebody told me about it.
It isn't enough.
I'm an anarchist. I can't really tell us what to do, but Steve, if you want to go on for another hour, I'm totally fine for that.
I get that you disrespect hierarchy and all.
No, this is a
totally
voluntary
cool.
hire.
I just wanted to congratulate you for the promotion.
And I pay him to be here too.
You think you can make Star Trek videos every week? You go ahead, buddy.
I could try. I see Jets and Jet do that.
You can't fill my shoes.
Oh yes, Steve, you should tell me to just shut up and something like that.
absolutely.
I do want to make one final point, though, as
go ahead.
as we're talking about, because this was an interesting passage I read from David Graeber's book, Bullshit Jobs of Theory. It's an excellent book, but you can go find his talks. But he didn't mention this in his talks. One of the people that said that they have a bullshit job, or even they themselves feel like this job is useless, doesn't contribute anything to society, it's better if this job doesn't exist. There was a guy who worked for a film company or a computer graphics company, and that in itself, creating computer graphics for entertainment, is not a bullshit job. He would love to make scenes of dragons flying over and burning up armies, or just like spaceships battling against each other. He would love to make those scenes and like get emotions out of people. But what he does all day is instead work on TV shows like sitcoms or soap operas and make the actors that were already very attractive more beautiful, thinner waistlines, fuller bodies for the males, all these kind of things, more voluptuous, like fix the imperfections in their skin or their makeup or something like that, and do the same thing in the commercials to make this beauty product look like it does a lot more than it actually does, make people more beautiful. All these other, like, these people are much thinner in this like ad for like weight loss products and stuff like that. So he's making people that are watching these sitcoms feel more shit about themselves in the television shows because they're not as beautiful as the people on screen. And he is helping sell the products that will fix that problem of yours, which is not really there. Society is expected to go evolve. And that's my final point. So any other final points?
One thing has helped me is you don't have to solve everything now or in a week or in a month or in 3 years. It takes as long as it takes. And you're not a failure because it's not fixed now.
Yeah.
And don't go at it alone.
And you're not failing by not doing what you feel that you need to. You're learning.
Maybe I apologize too much, but I'm sorry that it takes me so long to get to the point sometimes. I feel like I'm bad explaining things off the cuff. All right.
Nick, have you talked to me and watch our show?
Nick, do what you need to do, man.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not a problem.
Okay. I just want people to.
You're allowed to be your own worst critic. Just, moderate yourself. That's, it is what it is.
And honestly, if you were that bad, I'd kick you the fuck out. I don't need the money.
You know what? A song that I really strongly identify with lately is Depeche Mode's "Shake the Disease." Somebody just fumbling and struggling to find the right words and destroying their connections because they always say the wrong things.
It's a great song.
Look up more Depeche Mode.
It's a great song. Depeche Mode is a great band. I've actually been listening to a lot of Depeche Mode the last couple of weeks.
You know what? If I could get the rights to it, I would make Black Celebration the theme song for my first book.
I read it. It's good.
But I mean, like those opening pages, just have Black Celebration. It's such a good song about just that you can say is about depression and just the slog of getting through each day. Anyway, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm actually drawing this is Batgirl.
Oh.
I'm actually, because I was thinking about making like a little mini series based in San Francisco about it.
That's cool.
Oh, and Steve, what do you think of my T-shirt?
Oh, hey, Ed and Eddie.
Oh boy, I'm so uncomfortable watching any scene with the Cankers now. Because I'm just gonna say it, the Cankers are rapists. They just are. Like, yes, it's a cartoon and whatever was happens off screen, but it's not right. Those boys
they're definitely weird.
Those boys did not consent to any of that.
Consent's important.
I did like the Cankers though. I don't know. I thought Sarah was just really annoying. But that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring this celebration to a close, at least as far as everybody outside of the call who's watching. Mm-hmm. you all watching, you get an hour and a little bit extra, and then that's it. And then I'll probably leave soon after. But then the rest of them can just talk as much as they want. They can talk shit about me for all I care. I don't. I mean, it's like water off a duck's back. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
I still play cassettes.
You're such a 90s kid.
You're giving me such nostalgia.
I still have a cassette. I still have a cassette machine in my my sound system downstairs. It's a Bang & Olufsen, but it's a cassette machine.
Thanks everybody for watching. As always, thanks everybody who's been on the air with me for joining me. These are some of my, just a few of my wonderful Patreon patrons who support my work and allow me to continue to do what I do here on YouTube. So patreon.com/Steve Shives if you want to get in on this.
Links down below,
and links to, and also charity links for all of our friends that Some Random Geek has been mentioning in the live chat and has mentioned a few times throughout the show. So help out some of our friends if you can afford it, because unfortunately a lot of them need a little help. Thanks everybody so much for watching. And
stay safe out there.
Yeah, stay safe. Take care of each other. Be responsible, and we'll see you for another one of these next month. So take care, everybody.
Have any of you guys injected yourself with light yet and disinfectants?
No, but people have seriously done that.
They have, and Lysol and Clorox both have had to send out warnings about it.
I have a little LED light that I'm going to stick up under my skin as soon as we're done.
Steve, you're sick.
That should be
I have one. I'm gonna stick it up my ass.
It has to be UV. You're right.
I've seen tweets from doctors who are dealing with patients who drank bleach.
Yeah.
Oh God.
But he was just being sarcastic, Nick. That's not
Everyone who believes that, stand on your head.
It's like, he didn't specifically say you in the audience. I wanted you to do this. He didn't have to say
Yeah, that's not the way that works, dipshit.
Here's the worst thing about that.
So
even if he was, because there are some, like changing your pH to clear out like your orange juice stuff. There is some logic to that, and it's possible when talking to, epidemiologists, and talking about possible treatments for it down the road, that they might have been talking about something like that. But because the way he puts it, the thing that people he's so plain spoken that because he isn't relaying any of that nuance, it does show up to people.
He doesn't know the meaning of the word nuance.
Yeah, there is no nuance at all.
It's like no. We should be investigating every possible treatment or cure to try to figure out, but don't phrase it that way. Don't be like,
you know what? Just shut the fuck up.
Exactly. How about that?
I have a picture that I'm going to share in the chat.
Yeah.
That I took that my brother took of me recently. This is one of his chickens. This chick and their 15 siblings will never be eaten. They will grow up comfortably. They will grow old, and that'll be the end of it.
Oh.
So basically, nature is now reclaiming everything in some degree. So I'm like, thank you, Thanos.
That's
right. I saw those screenshots of how because traffic is way down in LA, you see the clearer skies, the LA skyline. Yeah.
What a great note to end.
Have the whales returned to Hudson Bay yet?
A gift from Thanos.
What a great note to end the show on. Thanks, Thanos.
Thank you, Thanos.
Thank you, Thanos.